Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to never miss a video from us.
So today we have with us Ms Sonakshi Gupta. She has an extensive working experience in corporate finance and currently working as a venture capitalist at Aditya Birla Ventures. She has been a rank holder in CA final with All India rank 37 and IPCE All India rank 21. We seek her guidance today to learn more and about her career journey. On behalf of Vskills, I welcome you, ma'am, to this interview series and hope you have a good time ahead.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you for such a warm welcome.
So before we start, as we see in your introduction, you are a rank holder in your final and pre-exams. So what was the mantra while you were preparing for the CA exams?
Well, I won't say there was, one short mantra or something, but I think the first and foremost thing is, the mindset to do CA should come intrinsically. It's not like someone's told you you do CA. So you should be really, self-motivated to pursue the course, given the intensity and the length of the course. And second, if you do enter the course, I think you should be really regular and consistent with, all subjects and just, whatever's happening in the course and be updated on the latest happenings. And third thing is, which might not be true for all subjects, but wherever possible, try to understand the application of subjects in real life. So you'll be able to relate to it better and, better understand how it could help you post CA probably. So that will just, help you stay excited for what you're going to learn. But apart from that, I think, yeah, you should, just have a strong mindset and you should be, keen on doing CA and have a passion for numbers and, finance and all of that.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people who are preparing are going to, create that they have to be focused with the proper mindset. Only then it is possible to clear the exam.
Correct. Yeah. Very important that you yourself should be self-driven.
Right. So my next question to you is, what motivated you to pursue a career in corporate finance and venture capital?
So, I mean, being a CA and coming from a, finance background, so it was very natural for me, to do something in that area. And then I cleared my CA exams and, then came this finance leadership program of Aditya Birla Group. So that gave me, lot of exposure in different businesses across geographies and in the areas of corporate finance, strategy, etc. So that's when I realized, corporate finance was my calling because I actually enjoyed it. Like, I realized, being a CA, you just like playing with numbers. So that was just always close to me. And, having explored a lot of profiles in various industries, then, I realized that, finance also has a lot of options under it, like from corporate finance, I moved to venture capital. So, of course, that entire world was just quite fascinating and, a lot of curiosity to explore the different facets of it. So, that's where I am right now.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. So as you're working as a venture capitalist, what are the important parameters you would look at while you're analyzing any startup?
So, I think the first and foremost would be, of course, the team you're going to be supporting and, funding, because the capability of the team, their experience, their pedigree, all of that goes a long way in scaling the business. The second would be the scalability of the idea. So, like there's this famous saying, I would just say, there is a gap in the market, but there isn't a market in every gap. So you need to ensure that the idea you have, it might be unique, but there should be a market where you can actually, make money. It can be monetizable. So that idea should be scalable. Like, let's say right now you're serving 10 people. Okay. It goes to lakhs or millions. That idea should still hold value. So scalability is very important, like, checking the total addressable market, serviceable market, and all of that. And thirdly, I think it's very industry specific. So, I find different key performance indicators like KPIs for each industry, seeing how the startup which you are evaluating fares in those areas and, benchmarking it to industry stats and then taking a call on how strong, the unit economics of that particular companies. So these are three broad criteria. Of course, a lot of other small, maybe startup specific points. But in a nutshell, these three would be the main parameters.
I think so. All the people who are doing, into startups or they are starting a business, these are the three factors if they're looking for a funding and all.
Probably, yeah.
Yes. So with so many layoffs happening around in startups, post-recession also. What do you think is the root cause and how can it be resolved?
So I think layoffs is a lot to do with the cash flow position of a company. So while they would have started off with something really unique and would have entered to disrupt the market, but
Mhm.
ultimately it's very important for every business to have a strong unit economics. So as they scale, maybe in the start you can probably take investors' money, burn it, spend it on marketing, advertising to acquire customers or whatever it is. But that can go up to a certain level. So
Right.
beyond that level, you need to ensure that the business starts generating enough cash that you can, fund your internal activities. So I think that is what was fundamentally wrong for many of the startups. So
Mm-hmm.
the cash burn continued beyond a certain scale, and like to acquire one customer, they continued spending heavily like it was just in the 0 year. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where companies weren't really able to be cash positive and have a strong unit economics, let alone profitability. I think that was far, far away. And then of course, the way to optimize and go about correcting this situation was to reduce your cost and bring about efficiencies. So if you see your PNL, I think employee cost could be one of the most tangible cost and also one of the most fastest way to cut cost. So while you can reduce spends on a lot of other things, but this is something because many of them start downsizing their activities. So it was one of the
Right.
direct implications of that. So that's where a lot of layoffs and all happen. So I think it's fundamentally to do with the way businesses were built. So they could have just done better with unit economics, probably.
Hmm. So they start spending, but they have to control, and it has to be equally rewarding as well for the companies.
Exactly. Yes.
Right. Okay. So, what's your view on valuation in 2021 and valuation now?
So I believe, valuations earlier in 2021, which is, predominantly, as people say, the COVID era, COVID period, were
Correct.
definitely, much more than it is right now. So the
Okay.
multiples were skyrocketing, and it was more like, I think out of FOMO and a demand supply game. So let's say one, top VC fund is putting in this, the other one also wants to come in. So then they quote a higher multiple. So it was like that, race to actually, get an allocation in the startup. So that's what, took the multiple higher. But
Yeah.
now I think people have started realizing that you need to do a deeper due diligence and assign valuations based on actually projected cash flows, because hardly people looked at cash flows and anything beyond revenue. So now that mindset has come, okay, let's just actually project the revenue and where it could go in terms of scale, profitability. So
Mhm.
that's where the multiple is also correcting, and that FOMO mindset is probably moving away. So people are probably investing in what they feel, and they have a sense of strong unit economics, profitability, etc. So it's
Mhm.
not just going because others are doing it. So I think it's also good because every VC should now take a deep dive themselves and do a due diligence.
Right. I think this is the mindset that should be there. Plus, I just wanted to ask more that we've been not very aware about how things function. In a VC, how the funding goes, how do they make choices? But there was a program that we were watching online. I think you've heard of it, Shark Tank.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So from that, I think we've learned more how they kind of invest, place their funds and everything. So does that really
Correct.
happen in true sense, or how does it function?
Right. So Shark Tank was focused on consumer brand businesses. So
Okay.
I would say, the kind of questions and the thought process is definitely, very similar,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not so instantaneous as they show. I mean,
Right.
there, the way it's portrayed, it's like a 10-15 minute decision. But I think it's a 10-15 week decision if you actually, take a proper deep dive. So pretty
Right.
much the thought process, and I think, the chronology of events could be similar, like, the process is followed. But
Mm-hmm.
I think you need to spend more time in understanding the business. So
Right.
it's that is what does not come across the show. But yeah, I would say the basic principle is the same.
Yeah, there are huge investments and you need to take time. So we were under this
Correct.
dilemma, okay, how quickly do they decide to make an investment like that?
Yeah, and I think those are like angel checks in small amounts. So of
Yeah.
course, bigger the check, better the due diligence as well.
Yes. Okay. So in these recessionary times, what's your opinion about venture capital deal activity?
I think, of course, I mean, the deal activity has slowed down,
Mhm.
but I would divide them into two buckets. So you have the early stage startups, and then you have late stage startups, which are
Okay.
probably beyond Series B, Series C. So early stage would not be impacted as much because, if you have a strong founding team, you have a strong business idea, something disruptive. of course, funds will flow in. In
Okay.
fact, a lot of your late P peers like TJ and all have also started, entering into investing in early stage startups. So I think that particular segment will remain unaffected, but late stage startups, so that might see a slowdown because, of course, those companies need to prove themselves. So unless, it's not because early stages, you're just seeing it more or less on the founder's capability and, maybe it's not as much in depth because there aren't a lot of numbers to evaluate. So late stage, right now might take a little bit of time and setback and slow down in terms of funding, but I think this is all very cyclical and this is the nature of every industry. So these kind of recessionary times or this kind of a cyclical nature is very natural, and sometimes I also feel is necessary for a sense check the businesses you've invested in, because it's like it was just at the peak last year and now it's kind of
Right.
slowed down. So I think it's a part and parcel of almost every industry and it's also required, I feel.
So it's more like a plant. You are, the seedling takes the first bud and there's a lot of growth. But when you grow, you have to stand up for, further growing.
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So since you have a lot of experience, you have been handling venture capital for a long time now. There's a thought process that, venture capital sector is a boys' club. Is that really true?
So I wouldn't really call that true. In fact, right now, there are a lot of women-focused VC funds, trying to back women founders, and VC funds are also, trying to ensure more women on the board to, for diversity or whatever reasons it is. But having said that, I feel that when you're in a VC, the mindset you have is just to look at the founder, irrespective of the gender, male or female, and the idea they're coming in with. So that question of, okay, whether it's a boy or a woman or whatever, so that is not really there right now in the minds, and that is a sign of the progress we've made and how far we've come, because people are indifferent to who's the person behind, but more about the capability and idea, and that's irrespective whether you're a male or female. So I think it's the very fact that we don't ask that question is a very good sign, because that difference is faded away and all we care about is the idea. I think that's a great sign, and as how far as a society we've come. So
Yeah.
I personally don't think it's a boys' club. I think it's just equal everywhere.
Okay, that's great. So it's the potential that we are looking at, and irrespective of the person who's behind it.
Yeah. So
Great.
it's just the talent and I think capability which is going to go a long way.
So what, according to you, are the most important skills required if somebody wants to enter into corporate finance and venture capital?
So first and foremost, I think you should have very analytical mindset, because whenever you're looking at a startup, any investment, any numbers, so you're trying to go into the depth and see why is something happening, what has been the past, what could be the impact in the future. So that kind of an analytical mindset is extremely important, and also a bit of research oriented to go and see any maybe related information and related metrics and stats on that. That's very important. I think very effective people and communication skills, because you're managing so many stakeholders in the process.
Right.
So in that end-to-end process is very important for you to have those kind of skills. And lastly, would of course, be to be updated and whatever's happening around you, the latest happenings, trends, industries, etc. So that's extremely important for you to be updated with the latest activity in this ecosystem.
Right.
Talk to as many people as possible to get their perspectives.
So it's not just the number that you have to be around, or just the profit and loss calculation. It's all also about putting yourself up front, speaking to people, and
absolutely
tracking it.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very important part of the job.
Right. So as we come closer to the end of the series, what advice would you like to give to professionals or students who want to make a career in this field?
First thing is, when you decide to make a career in the field, okay, just take a step back and make sure you're intrinsically passionate about this field. It's not that because everyone's rushing in it for it, and that's why you feel, okay, I should also go into that industry. Because a lot of people end up where they don't belong. So it's very important for you to, be passionate about investing, startups, new age technologies, whatever. So that's extremely important. And so try to, if you're really passionate, then whenever you're reading about a startup, try to understand the business model in details. So that will, put you in that thinking mode of, okay, how do they monetize and what could be the loopholes? So that's very important. And lastly, as I said, for, the skills also required, just try to read up and, be aware of the latest happenings. I think that's very essential for
To be
whoever,
updated.
student, professional, etc. Yeah. So I think these are the three things which I would just tell the future ones.
Right. Just out of curiosity, what's like an average salary for a fresher who wants to join?
Honestly, I don't think it'll be right to generalize because it's very, very subjective. Maybe the background of the person, whether he has some kind of a past exposure, experience in that area. So I don't think it'll be right to generalize the salary, honestly, because that can vary. Like even a fresher could be an engineering fresher or just a BCom fresher. So I think all those parameters will play a role when deciding a fresher salary.
So in general, we don't have a benchmark like that.
Yeah, like I honestly would not want to quote a benchmark because I don't believe it's going to be right to generalize it for freshers as such.
Okay, great. Okay, so last question for you, ma'am. What is the quotation you live by your life? What's your thought?
So one quotation, if you ask me, I think it would be like, do good, think good, get good. Because it's just like if I just convert it into simple terms, it's like you do good, and whether in personal or professional life, I think this is something which I've always applied everywhere. So it's just like you do good and you get good, and always have good intentions. Like it's simply like karma and the law of attraction. So if you actually think positively and you always try to do good for others, it just comes back to you.
Right.
So I mean, it may sound very simple, but I think that's a principle I strongly believe in and live by.
It's very hard to follow this principle. I think it comes from within.
Correct. It has to. Yeah.
So
yeah, things like this, no one can tell you actually. It's just like how you live your life. So.
Right. So it's been so good. We have learned so much from you, and it's such an interactive session. I hope the viewers who are going to view this will really relate and learn more about and learn from your career journey. It's been such a pleasure. We are happy to have you on board, and we wish that we have more such interviews with you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pooja. In fact, it's been my pleasure, to be hosted here and try to share my opinions with all the viewers. So, and everyone, just feel free to reach out as well if any queries later on. Would be more than happy to help. So, thank you for hosting here.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to never miss a video from us.